Soon, we'll be able to use ChatGPT or some sort of agent to go out there and do that shopping for us. Have you seen all of the people that are pricing Uber and Lyft and Robotaxi and Waymo? They're basically posting all of these comparisons. And one of the things that they're doing is they're basically saying, "Ooh, look how cheap Robotaxi is." And I think there's so much more of an interesting conversation to be had about this. Hi, my name is Levi, and this is The Daily Drive. The Daily Drive is brought to you by MileIQ. I just think that a lot of people are looking at Robotaxi from their Tesla vision, and I think they're missing a bigger piece. In this episode, I'm going to definitely talk to you about that. I'm going to talk to you about my ride, which is this woman who had horrible back pain, and then I'll jump into your comments and questions on the channel. So first, my ride. This one, again, they're all special to me, and maybe I just over exaggerate how much joy I potentially get from it, insight. But when I picked her and her mother up at the hospital, she had like this horrible back pain. She could barely walk out, like she was just crawling almost just step by step. And it just took her minutes to get into the vehicle. And it was so difficult. And you can tell she was just in incredible pain. She had this debilitating back problem that's been happening, she said, from like most of her life. And her mother was there to help her. But they just both, despite the pain, despite the speed bumps and the potholes that I diligently tried to avoid, they brought so much joy and laughter to the ride. And they actually, the daughter, she's a postdoc researcher. She ended up just giving me some insights to my book. I've been working on writing, and not a big secret, I guess, but I do share a lot of the stories that I've been writing. And she just had wisdom that and insight and thoughts that I never really had about what I could be doing with my writing, and I appreciated it. And what I gathered from this whole thing was that sometimes we have our own limitations in life, whatever it might be. And hers right now is this back pain. She just didn't let it stop her from being a kind human. I think if it was me and I had the pain that she was clearly in, I would just like not want to talk to anybody. I would be very disgruntled. I would be very upset. And she just wasn't, and it just stood out to me. And yes, she did tip, and her mom did tip, and I super appreciate it. So there you go. That was my ride. Now, let's talk about what's going on with Uber, Lyft, Waymo, Robotaxi in terms of pricing. If you go out to the internet, you're going to find all of these people that are posting these, graphics saying, look, my Waymo was, $20, but on Robotaxi it was $10. And they're saying, oh, look, Uber was $30 or whatever it is. And they're doing this like on the spot price comparison. And I think I understand where it comes from, because you want to get the cheapest potential ride that you can, but it's not a true accurate comparison of the pricing, because at the moment, every single app has different supply and demand things going on, if that makes any sense. What I mean is like Robotaxi, for example. Right now, Robotaxi is extremely cheap. And the reason why it is because Tesla is giving extreme discounted pricing. In fact, I did a little spreadsheet, and I looked at this one guy. So this one guy, oh my gosh, what was his name? Taylor, Robinetti. If I said that wrong, I'm sorry. But he posted all four. So he basically had this little over 2 mile, almost 3 mile trip where he said Robotaxi was $6.74, Uber was $30, Waymo was $40, and Lyft was $20. And I did this analysis, and the analysis isn't too much of an importance, but using some of my data I get from my trips, it looked like Uber, or Tesla, excuse me, especially because they had a person in the vehicle at this point in time, they lost $8, like 128%. They're losing money on that trip. So they're not priced at a way to compete in the market. They're priced in a way to get more people to use the app and make these posts, if that makes any sense. And Waymo was priced, if assuming that the costs were what the costs are. I mean, again, I don't know what the costs are, but Waymo's making a huge margin. And my point isn't to necessarily say that one's priced better than the other. I think there's two things that are happening. Number one is that each of the apps, Uber, Lyft, Waymo, Robotaxi, throw in a taxi company, the bus, whatever it might be, maybe not the bus, but all these companies, their pricing fluctuates minute by minute, second by second. And the reason why is because it's dictated by supply and demand. Demand for a ride and supply of drivers. But Uber's demand isn't the same as Lyft's demand. And the reason why is that not everybody uses the apps. If that makes right. And same with Robotaxi or Waymo. It's not like one person saying, I need a ride, all of a sudden pulls up all four apps, and that increases demand for all four apps. I personally would only probably open up the Uber app. So I would increase Uber's demand, but not Lyft's demand. And more so, supply is probably even a bigger factor. Supply of drivers. How many drivers and cars are online at that given moment in time for that particular service? So a lot of Uber drivers also have Lyft open at the same time, but not all of us do at the same time. So a car may or may not be available. Supply of drivers is also going to dictate price. So it's dictated not by the mile and the distance as the way that these people are posting these things. It's really dictated by, quite frankly, each individual company's pricing mechanism. So again, Robotaxi is trying to, provide discounted rides to get into the market. Whereas Uber and Lyft are probably at price equilibrium. They're basically being priced appropriately because they have so many riders and so many drivers, and they have their pricing mechanism down really well. But I think it's even more than that, because again, it's like these neighborhoods. It could fluctuate minute by minute, second by second, mile by mile. There's a lot of variability to it. But the second thing that I was going to tell you that I think is even more important is this is a very short-term, naive way to look at pricing for these rides. Now, if I were to compare getting a car, whether it be Uber, Lyft, Robotaxi, Waymo, to go from one side of town to the other side of town, compare that to a flight. Most people that travel, especially if they're doing vacation travel, go into a broker, an app, and say Travelocity or Priceline or I don't know, whatever app. Very few people actually shop every single airline in the potential for that. They might use, again, Kayak or some sort of app that goes out there and finds all of the rides. Uber is trying to do that, but it isn't. You Through Uber, you sometimes can get a Waymo, sometimes you can't. Depends on the city. Sometimes you can get a taxi, sometimes you can't. So Uber wants to be that broker that everybody uses for rides, but that's a short-term thing. Apps are kind of go away a little bit. Soon, we'll be able to use ChatGPT or maybe Siri. No, Siri's not that good right now, but some sort of agent to go out there and do that shopping for us. So imagine, get my phone here, my fake phone. This is not a phone, but I go into my phone and my phone buzzes and says, you have an appointment in 30 minutes. And then the agent says, do you want me to order a car for you? And notice that language. Do you want me to order a car? It's not, do you want me to order an Uber or a Lyft or a taxi? The agent knows that you have to be somewhere across town in 30 minutes, and it's going to start to do the work for you. So you just say yes. Now that agent, that artificial intelligence, is going to know your price point, your budget, the kind of car that you like, when you need to be there, and it's going to do all the work for you. And it's just going to say your car has arrived. Now it may be an Uber, it may be a Lyft, but you imagine that agent now has the ability to go out and shop Uber, shop Lyft, shop Robotaxi, shop Waymo, shop Zoox, call taxi companies. It's gonna maybe look at the bus schedule. It maybe say, you know what, you have time to walk, and the weather's really nice. You can walk. It's gonna do all that work for you, which makes me think: who are going to be the winners and losers in this competition to become the car service inside of autonomous car service with me. Zoox, Waymo, Robotaxi, they have vehicles and they're autonomous, but, or maybe not, just whatever, but they have vehicles. Uber and Lyft contract that out to people like me who have my own personal vehicle. What does that mean? That means that Uber and Lyft are already middlemen. They're not the direct service. So I, they don't have cars. They don't actually do the work. So imagine going to your agent, your broker, right? Your agent acting as a broker, and then going to another broker to get the car. It's like there's an extra layer of middleman that doesn't necessarily need to be there anymore. That's, and so I think all this pricing things and all these shopping things are making me think that the future is going to be one of those things where we don't need Uber. We just need a car. And if Robotaxi and Tesla actually democratize this and say taxis can get on our network or anybody else can get on our network or whatever and just use our cars or your car can go onto our network, whatever, however you want to do it. I just feel like Uber and Lyft, their days are numbered. You don't need to have another middleman, if that makes any sense. So I've been just thinking about that a lot. I don't really know if that's the way it's going to go. I'm just kind of future forecasting, but Uber is at a stock price that is at an all-time high. And I'm thinking to myself, like, would I buy Uber now? Or do I think I want to short it because they don't have any cars? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a stockbroker. I'm not a stock guy, so I don't really get too much into that. But it's just kind of interesting. Um, let's talk about your questions, and your comments from previous episodes here. Brandon said that he does less for tips today than he did before, except he keeps his car clean, and he really hasn't seen a change in his tips. And basically, what it is I made a post about tips and how to earn tips. And I agree with Brandon. I think that people who tip are going to tip and people who don't tip are not going to tip. So you don't have to do a lot of over the top things that drivers used to do. I think there are some drivers that still do it, but candies or mouthwash, I don't know, whatever. They used to have all these things in the back of their car as a way to give to riders as a way to earn a tip. And I think passengers who tip are people that are going to tip no matter what, and passengers that will never tip will never tip. But the standard is probably being at least a smooth driver and or keeping your car really clean. I think that those are the baseline. That's the bare minimum. If you drive unsafe and if you have a dirty car, even people that want to tip you may not tip you. So good insight, Brandon. I agree with you. Richard said that his passengers tell him stories about drivers that don't speak English and are unsafe. And that's kind of another point to Uber and Lyft competing with a Robotaxi and a Waymo, is that it's the variability. There's no quality assurance in the Uber functionality. You're going to order a car and who knows what's going to show up. Now, I understand the angst about, I don't know, drivers that don't speak English. I don't really care too much about that. Um, yeah, I mean, I understand why you might feel that way, but truthfully, I don't really care if my driver speaks English or not. But I do care if they're unsafe. And I think we're kind of putting this bucket together of people that don't speak English that probably have bad cars that are driving unsafe. And I don't think that's a fair thing to say, but it is a common thing. Passengers are ordering cars and the drivers are just not professional drivers at whatever level. And I think that's a big problem with quality, especially for the price point that Uber and Lyft are making passengers pay. So it's a good point. Scoop said that most drivers are doing the best they can with what they have. And I think that kind of goes back to that other thing that we just talked about with Richard. It's a hard job. It's a hard job. People don't understand how difficult it is to be a rideshare driver, a taxi driver. And, and you know what? You don't get paid that much. So I can see why drivers cut corners and try to do unsafe things and don't really spend time cleaning their car because they're not getting tips, they're not getting paid, and they're working 12, 15-hour days. They're doing unsafe things. And, sometimes I know I'm not at my best. And yeah, people are doing the best they can. And Scoop, good point. Good point. So, um, I created the daily drive for our community. Drivers for 2025, I want you to be safe, healthy, and happy. I want you to know that you can make as much money as possible, potentially, um, but I want you to really enjoy the ride. I am cheering for you. Be well, be safe. Bye.